All right, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be doing lecture 22. We're going to be writing equations from slope and a point. Yes, I do.
How did I do on the thing we did on Thursday?
I'll show you later on in class today. All right, so last week we started talking about slope-intercept form and standard form. So standard form, that's going to be ax plus by is equal to c. X and y are going to be variables, and a, b, and c are going to be whole numbers. So that's standard form. That's the first way that you can write a line. The second way that you can write a line is called slope-intercept form. And we're going to write that down. Slope-intercept form. All right, so slope-intercept form, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're going to have a slope and you're going to have a y-intercept. The way you write this is y equals mx plus b. So x and y are going to be variables as usual. M is going to be your slope. So I'm going to draw an arrow to that and I'm going to call it slope. And b is the y-intercept. So I'm going to draw an arrow to that and I'm going to label it y-intercept. These are the two numbers that you need to know to be able to write this slope-intercept form. The x and the y are just going to be variables. They're going to be given to you. So let's draw a picture of what this looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an x-axis, which is just a horizontal line. And I'm going to put arrows at both ends. And I'm going to put an x below the right arrow. The x-axis is always going to be a horizontal line. The y-axis is always going to be a vertical line. It's going to look like this. So I'm going to put arrows at both ends like I did for the x-axis, but I'm going to put a lowercase y at the top next to this arrow. So this is called the xy plane. So on the xy plane, you can graph lines and all sorts of other functions. I'm going to change my color to red, and I'm going to draw my line. And I'm going to put arrows at both ends. Okay, so this line, it's going to cross the x-axis right here. That's where it's going to cross the x-axis. So I'm going to put a dot there. And I'm going to call this my x-intercept. I shorten it to xint. That just means x-intercept. But then it also has a y-intercept, right? It's going to cross the y-axis right here. So I'm going to put a dot there too. And I'm going to label it the y-intercept. So this is going to be the y-intercept. And we call this lowercase b when we write out our slope-intercept form. So this is what all the lines are going to look like. All the lines that you see today are either going to have an x-intercept or a y-intercept, or both. Okay. So on the next slide, what we're going to do is we're going to try a few practice problems from the notes, and I'll show you how to do those. They're actually really simple. Okay.
I have to take a placement test tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Would this kind of math be on it? Do you think?
Not sure about that. Ask me that at the end of class. Okay. So you don't have to write what I'm writing up here. This is just the directions. Okay. So number one, they're going to give you two pieces of information. The first thing that they're going to give you is an ordered pair. This one is going to be 1, 7. And they're also going to give you a slope. The slope for this one is going to be 2. And what I want to do is I want to write out this equation as y equals mx plus b. Okay, so the first thing I do is I write down my equation, y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to start putting in all the information that I know. So what's my y value going to be? 7, right? So I'm going to let y be 7. What is my m going to be? 2, right? That's my slope. So I'm going to let m be 2. And then in parentheses right beside that, I'm going to put my x value. What's my x value going to be? 1. That's this number right here. And then b, we don't know what b is yet, so I'm going to leave that as a variable. So now there's a couple things I can do to get b by itself. What's the first thing I'm going to do with these numbers? I'm going to multiply them together. 2 times 1 is going to give me what? 2. Yep. And then I'm going to bring down everything else, like the plus b on this side and the 7 on this side. So now to get b by itself, I only need to get rid of the 2. So how can I do that? I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Yep. So when I do that, I'm going to subtract it over here and over here, because I've got to do the same thing on both sides of the equal sign. Okay. So now on the right side, I can bring down the b. The 2 and the negative 2 are going to cancel each other out. So I'm going to cross these 2's out. And then on the other side, I have 7 minus 2. What's that going to be? Yep. So b is going to be 5. So now I know what the slope is. The slope is going to be 2. And I know what b is. B is going to be 5. And now I can write out my answer in slope-intercept form. So y is just going to be a variable. I need my m. M is going to be the 2. So I'm going to have 2x plus b. And we just figured out that b is 5, right? So I'm going to put a 5 right here. And I'm done. That's going to be my answer. Y equals 2x plus 5. And I'm going to put a box around it, just so you're clear that this is going to be the answer. We're going to do one just like that. Let's try number 2 from the notes. This time, my line is going to go through the point -1, 2. And my slope this time is going to be -3. So now I've got the 2 pieces of information that I need. I've got my slope, I've got a point, and I'm always going to be using y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to write that down first. Then I'm going to start putting in all the numbers that I know. My y value is going to be this 2 right here. My m is going to be the slope, -3. My x value is going to be -1. And then b, I don't know what that is yet, so I'm going to leave that as a b for now. Okay, so just like last time, I'm going to multiply these 2 numbers together. What's -3 times -1? 3. +3. So I'm going to get 2 equals 3 plus b. So now to get b by itself, I need to get rid of this +3 somehow. Subtract 3 from both sides. Yep. And you will get -1 for b. So the b is going to come down. The 3's are going to cancel each other out. And then over here on the other side, I have 2 minus 3. That's going to be a -1. Okay, so now that I know what b is, I have all the information I need to write my answer in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to bring this over here. Y equals m, that's -3, x plus b, which is going to be -1. So since b is negative, I'm just going to keep the minus right there. -3x minus 1. Okay, let's see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Desmos, the graphing calculator, and I'm going to type in my answer. Y equals -3x minus 1. And when I do that, I get this line. The line is going to have a y-intercept right here, -1. It's also going to have an x-intercept, -1/3, it looks like. And the line is going to have a slope of -3. And it has to go through the point -1, 2. So I'm going to write that down as well. -1, 2. So it shows up as a blue dot on my graph right here. And the line does go through that point. So we know we got it right. So that's what the line is going to look like. So all these are lines that we're graphing today. Okay.
So
yeah.
So would you even have to do the put your answer in to get the -1, 2 on the graph?
So no, I give it to you in the question. Yeah. So you would just type that in as you see it. And it should be on your line. If it's not, then something went wrong. All right, we're going to do another just like that. And then I'm going to show you what horizontal lines and vertical lines look like. We're going to do number 3. This line is going to go through the point -3, 5. -3, +5. And this time, my slope is going to be a fraction, but that's fine. I'll show you how to do it. It's going to be -2/3. Now, as usual, I'm going to be using y = mx + b. So I'm going to write that down first. And then I'm going to put in all the information that I know. So first of all, my y value is going to be this +5 because the y value always comes second in the ordered pair. So I'm going to let y be 5. And then what's m going to be? -2/3. Yep. So I put -2/3 inside parentheses. And then my x value is going to be what?
-3.
Yeah, -3. I still don't know what the y-intercept is, so I'm going to leave that as b for now. Okay, so like usual, I'm going to multiply first. I'll give you a trick for doing this. You see how the denominator is 3, the bottom of the fraction? And then there's a 3 at the top. Those can be canceled out. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my color to red. And I'm only going to cross out the numbers. The 3 right here and the 3 right here. But notice I've still got 2 negatives. And that's going to make a +2. That's right. So I get 5 = 2 plus b. Okay. So to get b by itself, I can subtract 2 from both sides. And 5 minus 2 is going to give me what?
3.
Yep.
8.
So now I know what b is. B is going to be 3. So now I'm going to write out my equation in y = mx + b form. My slope is -2/3. There's going to be an x beside that, and then a +3 at the end. And that's my answer. Now, if you're having trouble with the fractions, you could do it in the handheld calculator. Just remember to put parentheses around your fractions. If you're using Desmos, I'll show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is, like I just told you, I'm going to put the fraction inside parentheses first. So I'm going to have -2/3 inside parentheses. And at the bottom, it's going to give you the decimal that it's equal to. Now, I need to multiply this by -3. So in parentheses right beside it, I'm going to put in -3. And then it's going to spit out the answer at the bottom of the box. What does it say? +2. Yeah, because the negatives cancel out, right? So that's another way you can do it. You can use Desmos, and the fractions are really simple there. Okay, so let's do 2 more, and then I'll let you guys get started on the classwork, and we'll finish it up. Let's try number 4. 4 is going to be a line that goes through the point 2, 1. And the slope is going to be 0. The slope is going to be 0. So if your slope is 0, what kind of line are you going to have?
None. I meant horizontal.
Horizontal line. Yep. And you'll see that when we write out our answer. Okay, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to put in all the numbers that I know so far. I know that my y value is going to be a 1. I know that my m is going to be the slope. That's 0. So I'm going to let m be 0. And right beside it, I'm going to put the x value in, which is positive 2 right here. I don't know what b is yet, but we're about to figure that out. So I'll leave it as a variable for now. Okay, so 0 times 2 is going to give me what? Yep. If you multiply anything by 0, you will get 0. So now I've got 1 equals 0 plus b. So 1 is going to be equal to b. Yep. If you want to, you can subtract 0 from both sides, but that's actually not going to change anything, as you'll find out. 1 minus 0 is going to give you 1. So now I know what b is. So now I'm going to write out my answer as y equals mx plus b. I know that my m is going to be 0. So I'm going to have 0x.
So we still put that in this?
Yeah, and you'll see what I'm about to do with it. So I'm going to get y equals 0x plus b. B is a positive 1, right? So I'm going to add 1 at the end. But I'm not done yet. What's 0 times x going to be? 0. So I can replace that with a 0. What's 0 plus 1?
1.
1. So my answer is going to be y equals 1. And I'm going to put a box around this so you know that this one is going to be the answer. Y equals 1. This is actually going to be a horizontal line, just like you said. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to graph it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So going back to Desmos, I'm going to X out of this, and I'm going to type in what my answer just was. Y equals 1. And watch what shows up on the screen. You get this horizontal line at 1. That's what it looks like. And of course, it's a horizontal line, right? So the slope is going to be 0. You already know that. Let's look at a vertical line. We're going to do number 5, and that's the last one that we're going to do together. 5 is actually going to be a vertical line. It's going to go through the point 3, 6. 3, 6. And the slope of this line is going to be undefined. Now, whenever you have an undefined slope, you know that you're going to have a vertical line. It'll basically look like this, just straight up and down. Now, when you try to put it in y equals mx plus b form, you run into a little bit of trouble. I know that my y value is going to be 6. And I know that my x value is going to be 3. But notice, I don't know what b is. And since my slope is undefined, I don't know what m is either. So I can't use this equation. Can't use that. I'm going to exit out. Can't do it this way. So there must be another way I can do it. And there is another way. I'm going to write my answer as x equals 3. And I'm done. That's going to be my answer. So whenever you have a vertical line, it's always going to be x equals something. Whenever you have a horizontal line, it's going to be y equals something. So now let's graph it and see what it looks like. I'm going to go over to Desmos and I'm going to type in x equals 3. X equals 3. And then what shows up on my screen? That vertical line, right? So that's the difference between a horizontal line and a vertical line. Okay, so let's get to those 10 questions that we're going to do for our classwork today.